Hello and welcome to The World Today on Channels Television. I'm Anne Nwawado. You're watching right here in Lagos. Here's what's coming up on the program today. A great tragedy is how South African President Cyril Ramaphosa describes the fire incident where more than 70 people were killed in Johannesburg. The Gabonese junta names Republican Guard General Brice Oligui Nguema as new leader of the country following the recent coup in the country. Plus, recovery efforts in motion in Florida, United States of America, following Idalia's fury. Thank you for joining us once again on The World Today. Let's begin with more details. We're learning about the fire at the building in Johannesburg, South Africa that has killed more than 70 people. First off, city officials are now saying there appears to be a gate inside the building that was closed, and so people could not get out. Member of the Mayoral Committee for Safety and Security attributed the high death toll in the building to a lot of partitions and the gates in between. It says that many people wanted to get out, but they could not, which is why many of them burned. They were found stashed on the gate at the bottom level floor. Some South Africans have criticized what they say is slow response of Johannesburg's emergency services in the fire in that building located only 30 minutes away from at least 2 fire stations. While a while ago, President Cyril Ramaphosa, during a visit to the Eastern Cape province, made his first public comments on that blaze, calling it a great tragedy. In his words, our heart goes out to every person who is affected by this disaster. This incident calls on all of us to reach out to survivors to help restore their physical and psychological well-being. I do hope that investigations into the fire will enable communities and authorities prevent a repeat of such a tragedy. Here's more on the disaster that befell Johannesburg today.
The scene here in Marshalltown is one of absolute devastation. Firefighters have been battling the flames for hours. The fire has been contained, but still smoldering. Eyewitnesses have described scenes of chaos and desperation as residents attempted to escape the fire.
I get here, I think it was around about quarter to 2, and I could literally see people jumping off. And obviously there were already bodies that were on the floor, and the paramedics were already, luckily the paramedics were already here, and the fire engine was already here as well.
I think our response was quick because we, in the area of the inner city, we had vehicles which were already on standby, and then we managed to respond to incident.
Meanwhile, the death toll continues to rise. The cause of the fire is still unknown. Many families have been torn apart, and the community is left grappling the scale of this disaster.
The city has to follow up on these buildings, because they're in good structures, but then there's no one to manage, so people will take over.
Marshalltown resident Kenny Mudala describes how he managed to escape the blaze.
It was around 2 o'clock. We saw there was people that were working up, but like that, there was a lot of commotion, people running up and down. So when I looked through the window, I saw there was smoke coming out through the building, and we tried to check outside what was going on, and there was a lot of commotion in the passage. There was people that were running up all over. They were looking for an exit because some of the exits were closed, and the actual fire escape was closed. So there was a lot of people, a lot of people smoke, people suffocated, a lot of people died because of the smoke, because there was a lot of pressure at the gates. Some of the gates were closed.
The time I was there to go outside, I found too much people on the corridors. I failed to go that side because there was too much smoke, too much people, and we failed to open the gates. There's a gate inside there. So we just decided to go and jump on the window.
Officials are expressing their condolences and promising a thorough inquiry. However, no one is taking responsibility for this.
It's not just our problem as government. It's a collective problem because the people are occupying these buildings are our citizens. So if we cannot be considerate of the fact that our attempts are to also assist them in relocation and to also restore our city to its former glory.
Government is here, that's why we are here, and that's why we are here to understand what has happened, what needs to be done, and of course we're going to look internally inside the city for accountability of whether indeed it was truly the negligence of the city or it was the people really not heeding to the call of the city to do the right thing.
73 people confirmed dead. That number could still change. As investigations continues, our thoughts are with the victims and their families in this incredibly difficult time. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Samos, Channels Television News.
A very sad incident indeed. Meanwhile, survivors of that blaze are describing how they escaped the smoke-filled apartments block. One man from Malawi said he had lost his sister in the fire and spoke of how his small niece was thrown from that building and caught by people outside. However, it is still not clear if that child survived. Another man said the fire escape was closed and many people died from the effects of the smoke filling the building, which was occupied by homeless people, many thought to be migrants.
First, I'm losing my sister. 3 sisters already I'm losing, and also my thing. Any things I didn't bring from inside because that time I was already to protect my life, you know. And my sister, when my sister she lived with the small daughter, and my in-law, she just hit the window and to throw the daughter outside. The people they just take the daughter on while it was what on the air.
The actual fire escape was closed, so there was a lot of people, you know, a lot of people smoke, people were suffocated, a lot of people died because of the smoke, because there was a lot of pressure at the gates. Some of the gates were closed.
It's a 5-story building which caught fire early hours of this morning. We started evacuating the people who were inside the building and also conducting our firefighting operations. At this stage, the total number of people who have been recovered, it's 64, and then the total number of people who were injured or who received minor injuries or moderate injuries is about 43. So that's where we are now. But the number might still increase because of the nature of the incident which we are attending to now.
From South Africa, let's turn our attention now to the latest coup in Africa. Gabon's coup leaders have named General Brice Oligui Nguema as the new West African state's transitional leader after seizing power from President Ali Bongo just yesterday. General Nguema is a former head of the Presidential Guard who worked with Ali Bongo's father. Very early on Wednesday morning, the Gabonese Armed Forces officers also declared on television that the recent election results were cancelled and the borders were closed and state institutions all dissolved. Military officials in the oil-producing state have placed President Bongo, who has just won a 3rd term in office, under house arrest.
Faisant suite à la réunion de ce jour.
It's been over 24 hours since military officers in Gabon overthrew President Ali Bongo in a coup, following the announcement of Bongo as president for a 3rd term.
Annulé. Les frontières sont fermées jusqu'à nouvel ordre.
President Bongo was placed under house arrest and later released a video on social media asking his friends to come to his aid.
Send a message to all the friends that we have all over the world to tell them to make noise, for the people here have arrested me.
In the interim, the military junta has named Army General Brice Oligui Nguema, who was once the bodyguard of Ali Bongo's late father, as chairman of the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions.
Faisant suite à la réunion de ce jour.
All the commanders-in-chief and chiefs of staff, as well as the generals in 2nd section of the Gabonese Republic, were present for the meeting. General Brice Oligui Nguema was unanimously appointed chairman of the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions, presidents of the transition.
Président du Comité pour la transition et la restauration des institutions.
Meanwhile, in a press statement released in reaction to the coup, the chairperson of the African Union Commission strongly condemned the military takeover and encourages all political, civil and military actors in Gabon to give priority to peaceful political avenues and a rapid return to democratic constitutional order in the country. The United Nations has also condemned the coup and is calling for parties involved to engage in dialogue and uphold the rule of law.
The Secretary General is following closely the evolving situation in Gabon. He notes with deep concern the announcement of the election results amid reports of serious infringements of fundamental freedoms. He firmly condemns the ongoing coup attempt as a means to resolve the post-electoral crisis. The Secretary General calls on all actors involved to exercise restraint, engage in an inclusive and meaningful dialogue, and ensure that the rule of law and human rights are fully respected. He also calls on the National Army and security forces to guarantee the physical integrity of the President of the Republic and his family. The United Nations stands by the people of Gabon.
Ousted President Ali Bongo had ruled Gabon for 14 years, taking over from his late father, who ruled the country for 42 years.
Chatham House fellow Paul Melly says the perception that Gabon's election was not transparent may have led to military officers seizing power on Wednesday and President Ali Bongo being placed under house arrest. Melly says the coup is part of Africa's growing sense of general impatience, seeking to displace traditional elites.
Well, the election was perceived as not very transparent. There were no observers, as far as one can tell, international observers or major regional observation mission or anything like that. And the election results were announced in the middle of the night at just around dawn or 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And the soldiers announced their takeover immediately afterwards, and that, I think, is a reflection of the fact that the electoral process and the way the results were being announced did not look very credible. People who were feeling impatient and frustrated and who felt that it was time for a change in Gabon, they were asking themselves why, after he's already done 2 7-year terms, why should he be elected yet again and in a process which doesn't look terribly transparent? And a growing sense of general impatience, as in many African countries, among younger people, urban populations, feeling that it was time for a change, that traditional elites need to move on, and the people feeling that although they had the freedom of speech in Gabon, they couldn't actually choose their leaders. I mean, it's quite likely that although we do literally have no way of knowing what the true pattern of cast votes was, it's quite likely that Ali Bongo lacked clear majority support among the population. Quite how wide his residual base was is hard to tell.
Let's bring in African Affairs analyst Luwakhe Diama to discuss this further. Hello, Mr. Diama. Thank you so much for joining us on The World Today.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So what do you make of the coup in Gabon, especially looking at the timing? Just 1 month ago, we had a similar takeover in Niger, and now it's Gabon.
It's an unfortunate situation because having all of this coup in this very short space of time is definitely not good for the growth of Africa. No coup is good for whatever it's worth. As a people, as Africans, we deserve good leadership. Unfortunately, we've not had that, and obviously that's why there's always excuses. I mean, a new sort of drive by this people in the khaki who want to come and do what they were not trained to do. They're trained to defend our nation. They're trained to be the ones who protect us. They were not trained to lead us. But unfortunately, because of the way our political leaders have conducted themselves over the years, they've sort of given the encouragement, as it were, for these khaki boys to come back to leadership. And that, for me, is very, very unfortunate, because without a doubt, that is going to be taking us back, a lot of years back. And there's a lot of things to deal with. We have economic situations in our hands. We have insecurity in our hands. We have a lot of things to deal with. Having military people taking over and saying they're going to be there for a while, a transitional thing, is not what we need right now, because we are people who are very, very rich resource-wise, but we're very, very poor as well in terms of GDP and as we live as a people. And that, for me, that's why, for me, a coup right now, or all the schools, 8 coups in this short space of time in West Africa and Central Africa, is too much for us as Africans.
But we see citizens celebrating this coup. It happened in Niger. So many people went out of the streets celebrating. It's happening again in Gabon, where people are on the streets celebrating again. Do you interpret that? How do you see that, given that it was just last week an election was held in that country?
Again, that could be as a result of so many things. First, it could be propaganda arranged by the military. It could also be that the people are truly tired of one family that have ruled them for close to 60 years, 59 years precisely. It could be that they also feel that they cannot be as rich as they are and be suffering as poor as they are right now, because Gabon is regarded as a rich oil country. But unfortunately, they are very, very poor, like the rest of Africa. And that is unfortunate. And I believe that any change will be celebrated, because the truth of the matter is the people are tired. Now, let me say this and put this emphatically on the table. Now, no matter how we try to deceive ourselves or call it in whatever name, Africans are generally tired of having all these natural resources. We're so blessed. We're blessed people, but unfortunately, we are poor. And that is something, whether now or tomorrow, will be rejected by the people today or the people tomorrow. This is a very bad development. It's something that I'm not happy about, because without a doubt, it's not going to bring development to us, because this is not the way to go. I'm referring to right now. But people celebrating it might be for the simple fact that they're just tired of the status quo they've been suffering and they've been dealing with for so many years. And that is probably, that's the reaction. Like I said, it could be anything. It could be propaganda arranged by the military junta, those who sort of perpetrated this coup. And, it could just be that people say, look, guys, we're just tired of this situation and we want to change.
Yeah, but military takeovers appear to be on the rise at the moment, and some presidents must be very afraid right now. But instead of people taking back power, is it something that can be changed? What do you make of this? How can democracy be restored in countries where these coups have taken place? And how do you even ensure that other countries don't take the same path or the same route?
To put it in a word, it's just sincerity. The truth of the matter is, this is not rocket science. Leadership is doable. You can get people to lead people sincerely and well. And I like to sometimes bring all of this down, even to corporate organizations. If you have a leader who truly understands what he's doing and is sincere in what he's doing, when I talk about sincerity, remuneration, the way he treats his staff and all of that, you will discover that people will be committed and be willing to spend so many years serving, that leader or serving in that organization. But if you have a leader, no matter how comfortable he might be, maybe you're being paid very well, or you're being treated in a particular way that you don't like, the opportunity you have to leave that organization, you leave that organization. Now, this is a situation where you have people as trustees given the opportunity to hold in trust the wealth of the people. And each time they go there, everybody can see, it is glaring, that what they do is to enrich themselves and their family. And in most cases, they don't even want to leave. They don't have enough, or eat enough and say, oh, we're tired, let's move on and give the opportunity to other people. They want to die there. So what I believe we should be doing, and I believe in at the level of EU and ECOWAS, is to say to ourselves, we need good leadership. So let us have a situation where we are able to even define what we want, qualification, character, the kind of people we want. Let's talk about it as loud as possible. Let everybody at that level begin to see that, look, from afar, you will see, me will see that, oh, I'm not qualified, I cannot be a leader. Because I cannot just wake up one day and become a doctor. I cannot wake up one day and become a journalist. I cannot wake up one day and become a pilot. Everybody can just wake up and say they want to become a politician, and before you know it, they are leaders. I think that's something we've been doing wrong for over the years, and we need to stop it because there's no other way other than getting leadership right. And I say it again, even from the level of the regional bodies, I'm referring to African Union, ECOWAS, SADC, and the rest of them. We need to say to ourselves, this is what we expect of these people. This is what they need to have as qualification, the kind of character, the kind of people that we deserve, and the expectation of them, so that the moment they start to miss it, everybody can call them out and it'll become something. You know, we have it on a signboard or signpost, so that everybody can call them out and say, look, you are missing it. But this is not what we expect of you. Because I believe what is really happening to us right now is we don't even have an idea, all of us, what we expect of our leaders, who they ought to be, what kind of qualification they ought to have, what kind of character they ought to possess. And if we do not have that properly defined, we're going to be doing all of this trial and error. And at the end of it is what we have, a situation where anybody just wakes up one day and say, you're not doing it where I want to do it, and it comes in, and that sets us back. We start again, we try it again, and we have emperors and empires and all of that. It's been a joke as far as I'm concerned, as regards leadership in Africa so far, because for me, we have not fully defined it. I would want to conclude by saying that it is doable. We just need to define it and be deliberate about what we want, what we expect, and how we want to go about it.
And talking about dialogue or interventions, I mean, we've seen reactions from various world leaders and even regional bodies in continental and international partners. How do you think they can come together to resolve the political crisis in these countries? And how much interference do you think should be, or enough maybe, to tackle these issues there?
Again, it will take me back to sincerity. I'm sure you had it on news where the Zimbabwean, I mean, the opposition there is saying that what they now have is a political coup. In other words, the election there, which just happened last weekend, is being regarded as not being the right one. Now, the thing is, what is AU saying about it? What are all those regional bodies saying? They don't wait until there's a coup before they start talking. Because if you really want to end the right to educate, to motivate, to mentor, be able to correct or direct, you must be seen to be sincere, to really want to do the job, not saying, oh, democracy is it. Because we've had situations, and I can specifically name a country, Rwanda. I mean, President Paul Kagame was in the military. Today is regarded as one of the best leaders that we have in Africa. So it's not enough for these regional bodies or AU, United Nations, and the rest of them to sit back when they see our political leaders misbehaving and misruling us and doing things they ought not to do, and not talking to them and not shouting them out. Only wait until the military comes out. Like I said when I started, I do not agree with military takeover. It is not what we want. The truth of the matter is, when you have situations where everything begins to become the right thing to do, everybody can do anything. And with them having right to guns and they can carry guns, unfortunately, they are most likely ones that would always come to sort of come in as our saviors. And you see the kind of celebration you see on the street, because people just need a respite, need a change, they need something different. So these world bodies, United Nations, African nations, ECOWAS can do better by making sure that when we have political exercise at the election process, get involved, say the right thing, seem to be sincere, and people see them as people they can trust, and people can listen to them. As it is right now, it's unfortunate that they are not coming out as the kind of people that people can trust.
All right, thank you very much. African Affairs Analyst Luwakhe Diama, thanks for your time and your contribution on The World Today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's checking on Mali now, shall we? Where Russia has vetoed efforts to keep a team of United Nations experts who had accused foreign fighters of involvement in widespread abuses in the military-run West African country. 13 of the UN Security Council's 15 members backed a proposal on Wednesday that would have extended sanctions for 1 year on Mali and would have kept the experts in place. However, Russia exercised its veto power at the UN meeting to block the extension proposal led by France and the United Arab Emirates. China abstained from that vote. Independent UN sanctions monitors reported to the Security Council this month that Mali's troops and its foreign security partners, believed to be Russia's Wagner mercenary group, are now using violence against women and other grave human rights abuses to spread terror.
Disappointed by the outcome of today's vote. Once again, Russia has imposed its will on the Council in the face of the opposition of countries from the region. The Council's failure to agree on the urgent and necessary renewal of Mali's sanctions regime due to Russia's actions threatens peace and security, not just in Mali, but the entire region. The draft resolution has not been adopted owing to the negative vote of a permanent member of the Council.
The United Kingdom deeply regrets Russia's reckless use of the veto. This will reduce the Council's oversight and engagement on Mali's peace process at a critical juncture.
Россия проголосовала против подготовленного проекта резолюции о продлении малийского санкционного режима. К сожалению, несмотря на то, что мы неоднократно
In the United Kingdom, where Ben Wallace has confirmed his resignation as British Defence Minister in a letter to Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, while offering the government his continued support, he is warning the Prime Minister not to see defence as, quote, discretionary spend. He helped lead Britain's response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He had said last month that he wanted to step down after 4 years in the role and would quit as a lawmaker at the next national election to pursue new opportunities. Seen as a strong advocate for increased spending on the armed forces, Mr. Wallace has hoped to be a potential successor to NATO Secretary General, but Stoltenberg's contract was extended by another year. In his official resignation letter, he renewed his appeal for the government not to turn to defense to make spending cuts. In the meantime, Energy Secretary Grant Shapps has been named as the UK's new Defence Secretary, replacing Ben Wallace. This is Mr. Shapps' 5th cabinet role in under just 1 year, having also served as Transport Secretary, Home Secretary and Business Secretary, all in the past 12 months. His latest role will see him continuing to rally support for Kiev in its fight against Russia and championing spending on UK defence. Mr. Shapps visited Kiev earlier in August in the role as Energy Minister, where he announced that the UK will guarantee a £192 million export finance deal for Ukraine to help buy nuclear fuel from producers, including British companies. Claire Coutinho, who's a Prime Minister Sunak's protege, now takes up the post of Energy Secretary. Channels Television's London correspondent Teniola Oyetaya joins us now for more. Thank you very much, Tenny, for joining us on The World Today.
Hi, Anne. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. And the UK has a new defence minister, although not a new face, but is Grant Shapps reacting to his promotion? What is going on?
Definitely not a new face, and I mean, like you said, in the past year, he has served as the Minister for Transport, Business, Energy, and as Home Secretary. So defence secretary is actually his fifth role, but as you can see from his previous roles, it's a very different role, especially as he has no military background. But he seems up to the challenge. Going by his first statement as defense secretary, he says he's honored to take on the role and vows to continue the UK support for Ukraine and Russia's invasion. He also applauded Ben Wallace for his time as defense secretary and vowed to try and continue the good work. So, you know, it's new territory for him, but he seems to be up for the new job.
And the Defense Ministry is a very delicate role, looking at the UK's support for Ukraine against the war in Russia. Now, do you have any idea what this could look like under Shapps at this time?
I mean, it's the first day of the job. We can only, you know, really go by what he has said so far, which is the very short statement vowing to continue the UK support for Ukraine. I don't think there would be, you know, a major shift from that support, though, as we know, the British government has been very supportive and vocal about Ukraine, giving Ukraine more weapons amid the war, and very vocal about, you know, the support in general. I think you did mention that Shapps actually visited Ukraine earlier this month as energy minister, where he announced export finance guarantees. He actually also visited a kindergarten of the son of a Ukrainian family that he had actually hosted after they fled the invasion back last year. So he obviously is a strong supporter of Ukraine amid the war, and it would be interesting to see how he takes on the role and the impact it would have on Britain's response and support. But I don't really think it would differ so much from what we've seen with Ben Wallace.
And now everyone has known Ben Wallace as someone who has been an advocate of spending more on armed forces, has been very vocal about this. How are other members of parliament reacting to the reshuffling on account of Ben Wallace's resignation at the moment?
I think the appointment of Shapps, it's a huge surprise to a lot of people, actually. You know, there are questions about his lack of experience in military affairs when you compare him with Ben Wallace. The Liberal Democrats have called, you know, Shapps a yes man, who they say will leave the UK less safe as a result. There were a lot of other possible names that were floating about to replace Ben Wallace for some time now, like the Foreign Office Minister Anne-Marie Trevelyan, who was actually a former defense minister, or even the Security Minister Tom Togundat, also his name was mentioned. You know, Grant Shapps is loyal to Rishi Sunak. Last year, after he, you know, he stepped down from the leadership race, he went on to back Rishi Sunak's bid to become Prime Minister. So, of course, his appointment has ruffled some feathers. Some are saying that the Prime Minister is picking someone not likely to make, you know, a big fuss or go against him over issues like defense funding. But the major concern is that he has no prior knowledge of defense. And, you know, it's such a critical time in Europe with the war in Ukraine. But like I said, you know, he's a good communicator. So the Prime Minister is confident he's the one for the job. But a lot of people, even within the Tory party, are not happy because they just feel like the Prime Minister is picking his friends just to take on the job.
Now, how would Ben Wallace be remembered in his role as a UK Defence Minister? I mean, you just said there that it looks like a lot of people will remember him for keeping the UK safe.
We've seen a lot of shuffling within the Tory party over the past years, but Ben Wallace was a somewhat constant figure, serving as Defence Secretary under 3 Prime Ministers. He's a former captain in the British Army, and he has immense experience. So he was, you know, very highly qualified for the job. During his time as Defense Secretary, he oversaw the evacuation of personnel from Afghanistan in 2021. He was also a strong advocate for increased spending on the armed forces, which at times led to some tensions with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. He was also praised for modernizing the armed forces. But I think one of his major roles is, leading Britain's response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine and urging other allies to respond to the Ukrainian president's call for more weapons. So he was, hugely, he was really experienced in defense, and already, some military officers have already expressed concern that with, Grant Shapps coming, it's going to take some time before he could even, meet up to the stage of, or even if he can meet up to the stage or the experience of Ben Wallace.
All right. Thank you very much. Our London correspondent Teniola Oyetaya, as always, will keep tabs on that development.
Thanks a lot, Anne.
The United States has approved military and aid to Taiwan under a program usually used to help sovereign states. This is a move likely to anger China, which claims to the self-ruled democratic island as its own territory. The Department of State informed Congress on Tuesday of the $80 million package, which is modest in comparison with recent military sales to Taiwan. However, this marks the first time that Washington has provided assistance to Taipei under the Foreign Military Financing Program, which generally involves grants or loans to sovereign countries. This announcement is likely to heighten tensions with Beijing, which has not ruled out the use of force to take control of Taiwan. North Korea has conducted a simulated nuclear strike on targets across South Korea. And this is in reaction to Allied exercises that it says are having plans for a preemptive nuclear attack by the United States. In a statement, the General Staff of the North Korean People's Army, the KPA, said that the missile unit fired 2 ballistic missiles and correctly carried out its nuclear strike mission. The launch is coming as South Korea and the United States prepare to wrap up 11 days of combined military drills, which Pyongyang has already denounced. Reacting to this launch, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says the United States condemns North Korea's latest ballistic missile launch as it violates multiple United Nations Security Council resolutions. For North Korea's ballistic missiles, they are banned by UN Security Council resolutions that have imposed strict sanctions on the nuclear-armed country. Thank you again, the Administrator, for coming today and yesterday to provide all of you an update. As it relates to the missile, we condemn. We've been very clear about this, condemn the DPRK's latest ballistic missile launch. This launch is in violation of multiple United Nations Security Council resolutions and possesses a threat to the DPRK's neighbors and international community. We remain committed to a diplomatic approach to the DPRK and call on DPRK to engage in dialogue, as we have for some time now. Our commitment to the defense of the Republic of Korea, Japan, remains ironclad. With that, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Let's head to talk weather conditions now. Authorities in Florida say that recovery efforts are underway in the wake of Hurricane Idila that plowed through the state's Gulf Coast on Wednesday. Governor Ron DeSantis says that search and rescue operations are ongoing, checking for people that are already in distress. Also, thousands of households are set to be out of power. Florida's Big Bend shows homes submerged and roads inundated. Officials are now calling Hurricane Idalia the worst storm to hit this part of the state in 100 years.
Accordingly, the search and rescue operations have been ongoing from the moment that the storm passed in the hardest hit areas, and they've probably gone through about 70% of the areas that they need to be able to check for people that are in distress. And, so far all signs have been positive. There is, of course, a lot of debris to clean up, but we will get working with that with the local communities to make sure that the roads are cleared and people can go back to their lives. As of 6 o'clock today, there are approximately 250,000 power outages reported across the state. Since the storm hit, power has been restored to approximately 315,000, and that 250,000 number is actually a decline from what it was a few hours ago. We're going to submit the major disaster request. We anticipate that'll be approved based on my discussions with the president, based on Kevin's discussions with FEMA, and we appreciate that. And that's going to be important, particularly when you start talking about some of these reimbursements. These are counties that are fiscally constrained counties, and so they're going to need the support for reimbursement.
At least 5 people have died after a train hit railway workers at high speed close to the station in Italy. The workers, aged between 22 and 52, were replacing part of the track outside the northern city of Turin when they were killed. They had been working on the line between Turin and Milan when the empty passenger train went through Brandizzo station at the reported 160 km per hour. Mayor Paolo Bondoni says an investigation is underway, but 2 workers survived that incident, but they were taken to hospital for observation. Italian reports says the workers had been replacing about 10 meters of track when the empty train transporting dozens of wagons went through Brandizzo station at high speed. A rare blue supermoon, the closest full moon of the year, dazzled stargazers around the world on Wednesday night. The supermoon is broadly defined as a full moon that is closer to Earth than normal, that makes it appear slightly brighter and bigger in the sky. It is a second full moon in August. Thus, the blue label, blue moon, is the term applied when a full moon is seen twice in just 1 month. Saturn rejoined the celestial spectacle visible alongside the moon, at least where the skies were very clear. The last time 2 full supermoons were seen in the same month was back in 2018. The next blue supermoon is not until 2037, but another regular supermoon is on the horizon at the end of September. Well, finally, you think you're seeing double, but no, they're just twins. That's what you get when dozens of twins from all over Germany gather in Berlin's Attire Park to mark the 20th annual twin meeting, where they share the experiences living with an identical sibling. For this year, the oldest participants were 85-year-old twins Ingrid and Brigitte Ellermann, who have been attending the meeting for the past 10 years. Twins Christian and Andreas Bergel organized the gathering, and they say it is just normal for them being twins. But for many of those on the outside, it's probably something special. In 2021, the first study of twin births around the world reported a rise in twin birth rates since the 1980s, with 1 in 42 people now giving birth to a twin. Well, it's quite interesting to see such celebrations, but that's how we end it on The World Today for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu.